The People's Health Unit makes up part of the British History exam that you will take, and we look at this at the start of Year 10. It's broken down into 4 different time periods: medieval Britain, early modern, industrial, and then Britain since 1900. It also keeps covering certain elements within that. So we always start with understanding the time period, then we always move on to living conditions, then we always move on to the epidemic of that certain time period, and then we always talk about the government's response to public health. Public health is essentially the health of the people. So what did they have in terms of things like food and housing? What government acts were introduced? Things like free school meals. So we look at a huge, big overview of British history, and the big focus of this is the concept of change and continuity. What stays the same all the way through the time period, and what changes. Certainly there are some huge changes all the way through these time periods. Right, we also and again, this is really, really good for those pushing the top end of the grades. Get your head around these ideas here. That people's beliefs, values and attitudes will always affect people's health. Clearly what the government does, either at a local level, which is obviously things like the towns, or national government, which is the king and then eventually the parliament. What science and technology they have, well, clearly that's going to have an impact on people's health. Urbanisation, a little bit of a geography link there. Miss Hilton will love that. About living in towns. Again, if you live in a town, clearly it's going to affect people's health, and wealth and poverty. Right, again, that goes without saying. There's a massive difference between rich and poor. Right, some of the issues that we will keep covering. So again, all of these have an impact on people's health. So what do they know about health? What do they know about disease? More importantly, what do they not know for a very long time? Water supplies, where do they get their water from? Activity and exercise. Again, that's a really relevant one since 1900. Food and drink, relevant all the way through. You are literally what you eat and drink. Warmth and comfort. Well, those homes aren't going to be great for a very long time. Links obviously onto, again, housing and shelter. Different types of housing for different types of people. Hygiene, washing yourself. Right, obviously, again, different attitudes about that all the way through. Sewers, drains and waste disposal. Massively changes, right? Think about what you've got in your home today to what they had obviously in their homes in the medieval time period. Huge changes with that. The air quality, again, that becomes more and more important as we go through this course. And then finally, wealth. Wealth is a factor all the way through this course. If you've got the money, you're going to live a very different lifestyle to if you haven't got the money. And that's then going to obviously be supported by the government in the later time period. The structure of your paper. Hour and 45 minutes. Right, for the whole entire paper. Right, that's the British history paper. Then part of that, obviously, as it says there, about 50 minutes on people's health. Right, the structure of this paper is just based purely on knowledge. You've got to know your facts. Right, you've got to know your facts, you've got to explain your facts. So the paper starts with a nice little easy, factual, short answer, 3 mark little questions, as you can see through that example there. Doesn't even need a sentence. Then it moves on to question 2. Right, you will need to write 3 paragraphs for this, referring to what it's asking you all the way through. Use your knowledge, use your second order concept language. Then the third question, pretty much the same really as the second question, and you have 1 more mark. So again, 3 paragraphs, keep referring to the question, keep using your knowledge, keep obviously coming up with your second order concept language. And then it finishes with an essay. Right, essays are really, really important in history. It shows your high level skill, and you should know the structure. We talk about the structure a lot for an essay. So you need an introduction, which shows your judgment. You need to agree, then disagree, then have a conclusion on the end. How are you going to get the top marks in this? And we do get the top marks. you need to have 4 well-explained bits of evidence. So that's either 2 for agree and therefore 2 for disagree. Add those together, that makes 4. Or then a 3 and 1 split between agree and disagree. Again, it adds up to 4. Top marks again. Last tip, don't forget clinching argument. In your conclusion, actually leave the examiner going, God, they've got a judgment. They know what they're talking about. Not just summarise what you've just talked about. Actually leave your essay showing your true answer. All right, so clinching argument. So that's a little introduction to the People's Health Unit. We'll obviously then be working our way through the knowledge, starting with the medieval time period.